God. Yeah, that's pretty brutal. Welcome back, survivalists. Today we're going to break down 8 real-life survival lessons from the movie The Revenant. And stay tuned till the end of this video where I'm going to give this movie my rating for survival realism. So this movie follows frontiersman Hugh Glass as he leads a group of fur trappers through the Dakotas in the late 1820s. While out hunting, Glass stumbles across a couple of bear cubs and is then brutally attacked by a grizzly bear. Glass is left for dead and his son is murdered by one of the fur trappers he is leading. Glass is then forced to use his survival skills to stay alive and ultimately get revenge for his son's murder. Uh-oh, not good. So let me just pause it right here. So if you're ever out in the woods and you stumble across some bear cubs, it sucks to be you. That is not a good situation for you to be in. And what Glass should have done right here is not just stand there and watch them. He should have immediately started backing away slowly. You don't want to turn and run. Ideally, they won't even notice that you're there. You just want to start backing away very slowly. Alright, so right here, Glass is trying to fight the bear with his bare hands. He's literally hitting the bear and flailing his arms around. What he should be doing right now is trying to roll over, interlace his fingers, and place them around his neck to protect his neck, and try to just kind of curl up into a ball as best he can, and just lay there. Him wailing around and smacking the bear is not going to help his situation at all. Oh, God. Yeah, that's pretty brutal. But he's at least now in the right position. Ideally, you'd be laying flat. Your hands should be behind your neck to kind of protect your neck. I mean, there's not much you can do in that situation. Just play dead and just try to go limp and hope that the bear leaves you alone. Most likely, you know, if he's attacking you because he stumbled across his bear cubs, he's not going to eat you. He's just trying to, well, kill you, I guess. Okay, so that's exactly what I was saying, that the bear will eventually leave you alone. He's probably not trying to eat you. And Glass is doing the right thing here. He's just laying down. He's not moving. You know, the only other thing you do is just don't move at all. Literally just lay there as long as it takes until the bear is completely gone. Alright, so right here, Glass is not playing dead. He's getting in his own defensive position here just in case the bear attacks him again. Probably not the best thing to do. It's not what's recommended to do. I honestly can't quite blame him for wanting to do that. I'd probably feel a whole lot more comfortable on that end of a gun as well. But that's a big bear, and, you know, one bullet is not going to do much. You have to get really lucky with that shot. And here you can see all he really did is just off that bear a little bit more. So here the bear's rolling him over, and what you want to do is don't lay on your back like that. That's exposing your throat and exposing your belly. What you want to do is really just kind of curl up into a ball like this, protect your neck, try to protect your stomach as much as possible. If the bear starts chomping down on your arms or your legs, you can recover from that. If he starts chomping down on your neck, your face, your stomach, you really can't recover from that. So he should just really be trying to roll back over on his belly or curling up into a kind of the fetal position right here. So ultimately, it looks like he did get lucky with that shot, and he must have gotten the bear either in his heart or probably in his lungs, which is why it took the bear a moment to actually go down. But yeah, you shouldn't even really, if you're fighting a grizzly bear like this, it's not recommended that you try to fight back, because a bear that size, you don't really have much of a chance with, honestly. He got incredibly lucky right here, and he also, I don't want to say lucky, because he paid a very high price for that, for actually taking down the bear. Yeah, so this is a great example of eating whatever you need to survive in a survival situation. Here, Glass is found a discarded carcass, and he's literally trying to get any kind of skin or fat or tissue off of this bone for him to eat, just to provide his body with some sort of fuel, some sort of nutrients, as little as it may be. You know, there absolutely are accounts of people in survival situations, and they are presented with something that they could eat, whether, you know, it's grubs or crickets or frogs, and people are just so grossed out by that they choose not to eat those things and instead just starve to death. There are absolutely numerous accounts of that. And honestly, I feel like we probably all know somebody that if the only thing that they could eat was like worms and grubs, that they would not eat that no matter what. And it's really just a mental block. It's all just your upbringing and your culture. And in a survival situation like this, you have to like bypass that mental block. You have to force yourself to eat whatever you need to provide that fuel to your body so that your body can keep moving and can sustain itself. And Glass absolutely demonstrates this in this movie, from eating the remains of a discarded carcass like this to eating raw meat and eating raw fish. He's doing whatever he needs to do to survive and fuel his body. Yeah, so right here, I mean, this kind of demonstrates that water is our top priority. You can only survive up to 3 days without any sort of hydration, and you need to do whatever you can to get to access clean drinking water. And here you saw he's at the top of pretty much this cliff, and he had to go all the way down, crawling down on his belly just to get access to that water, and that's because it's a top priority of his. If he didn't do that, you know, he would be dead within a day or two from dehydration. Yeah, so right here what he's doing is he's using black powder to cauterize his wound on his throat. And yeah, I actually researched this one, and I really couldn't find any like actual accounts of people, of the military or anybody actually doing this. And this actually seems like a pretty impractical way of cauterizing a wound. Now, cauterizing a wound is a real technique that they used to do a lot more often, you know, in the 1500s or so. This movie was shot in the 1820s. My understanding, it wasn't that common of a practice even in this time period, because at this point they discovered tourniquets, and that's kind of the primary first aid technique that they use. You know, if you have a wound on your arm, instead of burning the wound to seal it up, you put a tourniquet on there, you put a lot of pressure on there to keep the wound sealed up. Now, in his case, his throat is actually cut. So I can understand why a tourniquet wouldn't work very well. But I also don't see any kind of bandages on his throat at all here, that he's not trying to do any kind of pressure at all on this wound, which would definitely be the first option. Now, if you are going to cauterize a wound, I mean, black powder it's kind of a ridiculous idea to cauterize a wound with that, because it's an explosive. It expands. So it may actually cause more damage than it would good. But what he should have done, if he has to cauterize it, is start a fire, which he had, and then heat up his knife until it's pretty much glowing red, then use the knife and press it against his throat to cauterize it. Or even the steel striker that he's using, or even the container that he's using to house the black powder, maybe pour the black powder out. But some kind of heat some source of metal up and then press that against the wound to cauterize it, if you had to do that. Black powder, I'm pretty sure this is kind of like an urban legend, kind of an urban myth. I don't want to say that nobody's ever tried it, but my research, my understanding was this was never a common practice. And really his first option should have been a tourniquet or some kind of bandage with as much pressure on his throat as he could handle without cutting off, his arteries or his airway. And then the second option, the much cleaner option, would be heat up a metal blade or metal object and use that against his throat. Got it. All right, yeah, I mean, this is a fish trap made out of stones. This is a very real technique to catch fish. You'll probably find it in most Boy Scout manuals and basic survival manuals. Essentially, you just kind of stack some stones up to create kind of an enclosure and the fish swim in there. Now, this is a kind of a sloppy variation. There are better designed fish traps than this. This is more just kind of like a dead end, and he has to kind of go in there and fight to actually catch the fish. The more modern day technique that they teach is essentially create kind of a circle, and then there's just one point that comes in where it makes it very easy for the fish to swim in. It's kind of like a funnel they can swim in, but for them to actually swim through that one entrance is much, much more difficult. Now, I'm also noticing that he's getting completely soaking wet in this ice cold water. I'm surprised he's not just taking a spear, any kind of spear, and just trying to catch the fish that way. If he had that complete enclosure, he'd make that a lot easier on him. And you also notice here that he's just eating these fish raw. It's just chomping right into them. And this goes back to doing what you have to do to survive and eating whatever you needed to survive. He's not caring about, the taste or the texture or any of that nonsense. He's just trying to fuel his body as well as he can. Yeah, so what he's essentially creating here is similar to what is known as a debris hut, which is what a lot of survival experts teach, which essentially you just build the frame structure out of sticks, and then you get any material that you can to kind of lay on top of that to provide some cover, whether it's grass or leaves or dirt or tree barks or moss, whatever you can, just to kind of create that protective layer over top that framing of sticks. Now, the one that he's building here is a little bit larger than a lot of people teach. A lot of people teach try to make them as small as possible, just barely big enough to actually fit you in it. Because the larger it is, that's the more air that your body now has to heat up. But if you make it just big enough for you to fit in there, there's less air that your body has to heat up, so it can get a little bit warmer inside of there. And I'll say that it seemed like he built that pretty quickly. I've built debris huts in the past, and they take surprisingly a lot longer than you think. It's a lot more work to actually get all that material together than you would first assume. But I would guess a hut like that may take 3 or 4 hours at least just to chop down all the materials and put everything together like that. But using sticks and other materials that you find in the woods to build a quick improvised shelter like this is a very real technique that people use and that a lot of survival experts teach. God, all I can think about is just how badly that must smell right now. Okay, so shelter is oftentimes your #1 priority. And here is just a great example of improvising a shelter with what you have. Like I was saying before, it may take hours to chop down enough trees to make a good shelter to survive a blizzard like that. But here he can make a pretty quick improvised shelter in just a few minutes by emptying out this horse carcass. And this may seem pretty extreme, but when I researched this, there actually are a lot of accounts of people doing this exact thing in order to survive blizzards. I actually found one story as late as the 1990s of two deer hunters who got stranded in a blizzard, and they actually shot and killed their own horses, emptied them out, and then did this exact thing and used their horses' carcasses as shelter to ride out the blizzard. And as a bonus, you're probably going to get a good amount of heat from that horse carcass for a long time, probably 5 to 10 hours if I had to guess. I've also heard of stories of people in the Middle East hollowing out camel carcasses and hiding in camel carcasses during bad sandstorms. So this really is a real technique that you absolutely can use if you're ever in a pinch and you need some shelter quickly. And fun fact, this actually is a real dead horse that Leonardo DiCaprio crawled into in order to get this shot. So this is as realistic of a depiction as you can get. So here we see Hugh Glass carving into this wall, "Fitzgerald killed my son." And I wanted to point this out because revenge can be a powerful motivator. And revenge is essentially what's keeping him alive through all of this. You know, there absolutely are accounts of groups of people getting stranded and in survival situations. And the people who ultimately survive out of those groups are not the ones that had the most experience or the most knowledge or most physically fit. It's the ones that had that will to survive, who had the strongest discipline and willpower to persevere. And having something like this motivating you is absolutely a crucial survival skill. It's just having that heart to persevere through all of these challenges. And if you're ever actually in a survival situation, obviously revenge may not be why you want to survive, but really try to focus on why you want to survive and who you want to see and who you care for. Think about your family members that you're going to leave behind and how much pain they're going to go through by you dying. And that could be enough to just motivate you to persevere and push yourself to your absolute extreme in a survival situation. All right, so now I want to rate this movie on a survival realism. How accurate were the survival situations depicted in this movie? And I'm going to give this movie an 8 survival knives out of 10. So although this movie was incredibly realistic and accurately depicted what it's like being a frontiersman in that time period in the 1820s, and depicted some pretty realistic survival situations, there were a handful of scenes that I felt like took things just a little too far. For example, there's a scene in this movie where he has to escape a tribe of Indian warriors by jumping into a icy cold river. And it seems like he spends a pretty long time in that river, but then when he gets out, although he is looking cold, he's still pretty functional and he still recovers pretty quickly. And in my opinion, if that water was as cold as they are depicting, he spent as long in that water as they make it seem like in the movie, he would be feeling symptoms of hypothermia by the time he got out of that water. His skin would probably be much paler, his hands would probably be barely functioning at that time. And in the movie, it seemed like he recovered pretty quickly from spending what seemed like a very long time in icy cold water. There's another scene in there where Glass falls off what looks like at least a 100-foot cliff and pretty much recovers in the next day or so. You know, in my opinion, with the severity of those lacerations that he has on his body, I feel like just a fall from that cliff, even if he falls into a tree, that's going to open up a lot of those wounds again. And I just feel like he wouldn't have recovered nearly as easily from as high of a fall as he took. Especially considering that that exact same fall was enough to actually kill his horse. And of course the scene where he cauterizes his wound with black powder. All of these scenes, they just push them a little too far to warrant a 10 out of 10 for survival realism. If you want to see some more survival lessons from Hollywood movies, click right here to check out a few of my other videos. And if you want to learn more about survivalism and prepping, subscribe and hit that little bell icon to get notified every time I upload a new video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys over in the next video.